Look, you guys.
Hold on. My computer's still catching up.
Is
Oh,
it? I know. We just have us four today, so
so cute.
I know. Here, I'm gonna make it bigger so I can see everything, and then change pictures. It's kind of like good not to have tweets this time and just yell them out because it's a lot. But yeah. So I'm gonna give it like 2 more minutes. I need to get a starting screen. So oh God, what was that? Oh, Lieutenant Nerd is hosting.
Yeah, it's an automatic thing.
Hell yeah. It didn't show up though, the little flower. Oh, you know why? It is. I was like, where's the flower?
Do I get a flower?
Yeah, or like the flower that like pops up when like someone hosts you and stuff.
Oh.
I'll give it a sec. Sometimes the stream starting is a little low, but it's okay.
I usually have like a bing bong in my headset. I'm like, what the hell's happening? Oh,
yeah.
Somebody hosted me.
Yeah. Or like the following, and I'm like, ah! Like it's just like very sudden. So.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't think I've had one new follower during stream. All of my followers are outside stream, and it's because I'm farming Twitter. Like that's it.
Yeah, because I'm
up to 34. I'm only 16 away.
That's good though. Yeah, for your affiliate, and I forgot like all the requirements.
If that's a milestone, I mean, all the other check boxes are checked, but that one.
Yeah, so just followers. You got to get 16, then you'll get affiliate. That's awesome. Hell yeah.
I'm in the same boat.
You are? How many more do you need?
Let me check. I don't know. I didn't stream it all this week because I've been busy.
Hell yeah.
But I can try.
I'm just like waiting.
I need 13 followers.
13 followers. That's not bad. That's close.
I'm at 37.
Oh hell yeah, that's not bad at all. When did you guys start streaming, by the way? This is gonna be part of the podcast, like promoting you.
Like, remember when you guys first met me like less than a month ago?
Yeah.
Just after that.
Hi Craig, how are you? Oh really? And Doctor, when did you start streaming?
About a month and a half ago, I want to say.
Oh, okay, that's not bad. You guys are getting through it quick. Usually it takes a while for people, so that's pretty good. All right, so should we start now that we've got some people here? Hey Craig, I think you are our first person. You are on time. All right, we still need to come up with a cool intro. I have not done that yet, but welcome to CarbuncleCast. We were not here last week. We had some emergencies, and life is happening at a crazy pace right now, so we had to take a break, but we are back. Hello, Sam, you're awake. Yeah, we're going to talk about our second and hopefully for a while the last time we're going to talk about Antagonists because I am sick of this. I've looked at this Google Doc for way too long. I'm ready to move on. So I don't know about you guys, but
there's so much to say. I'm excited to get to 10. Honestly.
You what?
I'm excited for this week because I'm really excited to talk about 10.
Oh, same. And I'm playing 8 again. And I'm like really excited to talk about 8. It's the first one we're going into, so I have a lot to say. But I know that a lot of us. What?
I was speaking of which, I've been enjoying watching you play 8. By the way.
Oh my god, I gave up.
Very funny.
I gave up. I didn't give up, but like I got so frustrated with the last one. Oh, Drown Summer's hosting. Thank you, Drown Summer. I got so frustrated. Thanks, I couldn't do it. I was like, okay, we're taking a break. So I started playing Sonic. But anyways, we won't talk about my own.
Where are you getting? Okay.
Go ahead. What?
I was gonna ask where you were getting stuck at because I haven't been able to see it.
Oh god, where am I at? So I'm at like you know when you're having to find that like white seed ship or whatever, like in the ocean, and it's like in this awkward.
Yeah. It's in the little
It's horrible.
You can't find it.
No, I found it, but like I have to keep going back to it, and I keep forgetting where it is, and so I'm like going around, and it's just like, oh my god, and then like it's so frustrating, and then I have to go back to Adea's, and then I have to come back, and blah. Evening can't really stop.
There was no such thing as dropping pins on the map
back
in the 90s.
So I have to just like look at where it is like on Google and just like hope for the best. But it's been a pain. But I'm really excited. So let's just get into it. Let's do this. So 8. We're gonna start with 8 because we went over 1 through 7 before. We had a lot to say about Kefka, a lot to say about Sephiroth, but now we're going into. We're going to do it one at a time because I feel like the later we get into Final Fantasy, the more villains are in one game, which can get really confusing. So let's go ahead and talk about Miss Adea. So I I love her. What do you guys think about Adea?
I love her too. I think she's really cool. I like that I was really happy that, she turned out to not be evil. So
Right. And I was actually like thinking about that because she was like their matron. She was the team's matron. Their carer almost. She was a teacher, and I was like, no wonder why she went crazy. But it's kind of sad. She's kind of a tragic character. I don't know what else you guys think.
Adea is Sid's wife, yes, and
Yes.
and so with this one is kind of interesting because none of the characters that are evil up until Ultimecia takes her form are doing anything of their own volition. So they're not like the evil Adea character isn't Adea at all.
Right.
You don't really actually see who Adea is until after Ultimecia runs from her to Renoa, I think, right?
Something like that, yeah.
I think that's the path. Because then Renoa goes to the next one. But Adea as a character, she's very likable. They tie the whole, like everybody has some kind of tie to it. It's with all the main characters, we're all kids together. They had no memory of it.
Yeah.
And she really tied that together. I like her as a character.
She is definitely different from a villain because she's not wanting to be one. I think that's the hard part. She's possessed, she's possessed, and she's like really cares about these people that she's fighting. She was basically their mom, and that's really some character development I don't think Final Fantasy ever really went into, was like, this motherly character that was possessed and turned on her children pretty much. It's kind of, and she's also really one of, other than the Cloud of Darkness, the first female that we've seen as an antagonist, and kind of the only one we've really seen since then. So, I don't know, Doctor, what do you think about Adea?
Unfortunately for me in this one, this is one of the only Final Fantasies I actually put down without finishing because I had no fun playing it.
It's a hard one. It really is.
I just was never a fan of Final Fantasy VIII. I'm going to be replaying it soon, but I couldn't get through it when I was younger, so I don't think I have a lot of input on this game specifically.
I mean, I don't blame you, because even playing it now, I'm very much like, why was this my favorite for such a long time? Because it's really hard. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's a really good game, but like, it's more nostalgic for me because I'm playing it now and I'm just getting frustrated, and I'm just like, I hate the draw system. But something I was really confused. Yes, I hate this. Oh my God, Vanessa having to help me with her guide through the sewers while I was streaming. That was something. And Drowned even, I think, came in last time and was having to get his guide out to help me. Like, it's just a freaking mess of a game. But Adea, I forgot more, like, that Sid was her husband. And I was like, how did this hot piece of ass get with this frumpy ass cowardly motherfucker? So, I was more confused about that than anything. But,
don't knock on Sid.
I mean,
Sid's a good guy.
He's all right, but like, I count him as an antagonist almost, because his like whole ship was going down and he just like dipped out. He was like, well, this is all up to you now, Squall. See ya. Bye. Like, I'm gonna go see my wife. Like,
I'm gonna go see my hot wife.
Wow.
Doesn't the sorcerer, like having the sorceress abilities, kind of slow down like how fast you age? Isn't that why she still looks like the way she does, and Sid looks?
That makes sense, because I was like, is this like a 90-day fiance situation where like he's just like way older than her, or like I just like was like they probably didn't think that much.
There's also creativity. You see like a character creation of females and versus males. An old man they're gonna make him, I don't know, and it could just be like a time when they were creating characters. It's but I think Adea was aged, but she was a main character, so they definitely made her look like, she's a quality character.
Yeah, they made her first for sure. Let's go on to Adele. So I actually don't know too much about Adele. I thought this was a guy. This is a girl?
Mm-mm. Yeah.
I was
Adele, so including Adele, including Adele is going to be a little bit odd because she was the stepping stone.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, Ultimecia was in Renoa longer than she was in Adele.
Right.
They used Adele as we're gonna put her as the whole plan to try to kill Ultimecia before she was able to like jump again, I think.
Right.
Or get her to jump. It was all they and then it failed because then she went into the future and it was all screwed up. But one single fight against her, and you're actually fighting her and Renoa together.
I haven't gotten there yet, but
yeah.
Yeah, that's later on, like right towards the end.
At the very end of the second or the third disc when you fight Adele, I think.
Oh, okay.
Because after that, you go to the future, and then it's the only part of the fourth disc is just the last dungeon.
Right. Drowned Summer says, I kind of assumed Ultimecia was in control of Adele when she was ruling Esthar. I thought that too, especially because Adea was the same situation. She was possessed. So was Adele possessed?
I feel like the text made it sound like Adele was like... They drew comparison between Edea being a good-natured person who was possessed by Ultimecia, which made her a little bit maybe blunted in her activities, but they were saying that Adele was bad before. So
maybe
I don't
she
know
wanted
if she was
to be
possessed previously.
Right. Kind of like Cypher, how she came kind of in her own motives kind of thing, unlike Adea, who just was, thrown into it for no reason. I don't know. I don't have much to say about Adele because I don't remember much from the first time I played, and I haven't seen too much of her recently. But Vanessa, do you have anything to say about our dearest Adele, who's interesting?
Same. I kind of threw Adele on the back burner and then forgot about her when you beat her in the game. I know that basically all I remember is that she ruled Esthar.
Yeah.
Esther.
Yeah, Esthar.
Yeah, before
Esther.
she was subdued. Yeah,
right.
And you don't...
And
but
then,
when you meet her, she's long not been ruling.
Right.
Yeah. She Laguna, Ward, and Kyros kind of sent her in outer space, right?
Right. Something like that. Yeah, because I've gotten to the part where Laguna talked about it a little bit. It was after the war, though. But I'm still halfway through the game. I'm at disc 3 right now, so I don't have much to say about this character. Doctor, did you get this far in the game to beat Adele? No. That's okay.
Everything about the systems in the battle was actually what really turned me off of the game.
Yeah. That's what's getting me now, honestly. I feel that. And then I have a statement from actually somebody in our Discord, Crepulus, that made a big statement about all the 8 sorcerers and Ultimecia, so I'm going to go ahead and say that now. It says, every villain in 8 except for Ultimecia was good. She only came out slightly less out of nowhere than Necron, and we're just told that she's bad, and she was the real mastermind the entire time, which I find lazy. Adele is far the more imposing figure, having been talked about pretty much the entire game before the fight. Even if that fight was a bit of a disappointment, I'll even say that they did Adea dirty. But she did kind of have to fall for the side of Ultimecia, so I just blame her. I kind of feel the same about this one. Ultimecia did kind of come out of nowhere. She was just like, ha-ha, here I am. Yeah. It was like, what? So,
you got lots and lots and lots of dialogue leading up to Ultimecia before Adele's plan even started going into motion. I'm not really sure what he means by she came out of nowhere. Necron, literally, you were introduced to him 35 seconds before you fought him.
Okay.
Ultimecia was the thing that was going through the entire game. Edea was Adele. Edea was Ultimecia. Adele was Ultimecia. Renoa was Ultimecia. She was the mastermind throughout the whole thing, and they introduced that before, like I said, before you go to outer space and even have to deal with Adele's thing. So I'm not really sure what he means by out of left field as far as Adele being imposing. Yeah, I thought it was a man. Character design, if you've ever seen Adele's character design, very buff,
I think
super tall.
Sorry. Keep going. Sorry, I thought you were... My bad.
No, yeah, I'm done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, because everyone's saying, wait, now she doesn't come out of nowhere. Drowned Sever says that. I guess she doesn't come out of nowhere, but I think it's just no one knows who she really is until the end, which is kind of why I can see why some people are kind of like, what? But yeah, she is mentioned. She is kind of a driving force, but she doesn't really come out till later. And then the other two are just kind of forgotten about. At least that's my impression of it. I don't know.
Like,
go ahead, Vanessa.
Her. I think that. Sorry, it's been a while since I played it.
Yeah.
But I know that when you're fighting Galbadia's garden, you kind of, I don't know, the screen's kind of wonky, but you can see like a ghost figure of her, so you can make out her form a little bit.
Really? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
When she's transferring to Renoa's body.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really like the only time you see her, so I feel like it's easy for people to forget that she was there because it's like, oh, what was that? Oh, it's a ghost.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, I think maybe that's kind of a cool thing, though. She was kind of mysterious and like this almost like, I don't know, I don't want to say like Satan, but like possessive Satan like ghostly character that kind of came out of in the end to be this like crazy sorceress who was like taking over people's lives, and she's crazy. She's insane, man. She's
crazy. I didn't understand her motive. That was like the hardest thing for me to grasp, was like, why did she want to obtain like time compression? Like, I didn't understand why. Like, I understand she wanted to live in the past, present, future. She just kind of wanted to be like a god, basically. But I don't know.
Yeah. That was one of our notes, too. Somebody put motives. I'm sorry, I just really want to know why the bad guys want to be bad under Ultimecia. So, I don't know. Lieutenant, you seem to know the most about 8. Do you maybe have some insight on that?
Well, as far as like her, it's really, really hard when you start trying to apply motives behind most of the Final Fantasy main villains. Cloud of Darkness, for one. You can look at what's his name? X-Death from 5.
Yeah.
Void. Cool. You just want to destroy everything. Why? No one asked the question. Her wanting to achieve time compression to be able to become as a god is akin to Kefka. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of need to. I mean, even Sephiroth, for crying out loud, he wants his mother. It's not even really his mother. He was used, like, her cells is in him, but that's it. You know, he wants to blow the planet. I mean, they're insane is like kind of like the baseline here when it comes to bad guys. And I really don't have to know like what's the inner parts of their need to blow up the earth. Generally, if you're at that point where you want to destroy humanity, you're already like, don't need to know why.
Right.
Object has backstory and makes sense, but then you get to Yevon, and again, what are you doing? You're just doing your thing, wanting to kill everybody. I don't know.
No, I agree. And then Summer actually made a good point. He says that she created her fate accidentally, and me and Vanessa both go, how? And he says her own fate accidentally. She's aware that she is killed by Seed eventually and wants to stop the persecution of sorceresses, but her actions meddling in time led to the persecution happening. All right, yeah, because
it's like a loop.
Yeah, so
like
she's
good old time loop.
Yeah. God, yeah, it's definitely something, this one, and all these characters. There's not even 3 of them. We have one more. We have Cypher, who is also a villain.
Her fight. Somebody's got to talk about the fight, though.
Ultimecia's
fight. Oh my god!
I haven't gotten there yet.
One of the first final bosses in Final Fantasy that I ever got to and fought. Man, if you're not prepared, she's gonna wipe the floor with you consistently. It's like 4 forms. You fight her once, she becomes something else. You fight her again, she becomes something else. Until you fight her again and she becomes something else that can hit you and put you at 1 HP. Like, I don't know. Her fight was intense. Like, for me.
I never got to that point.
So.
I never, even my first playthrough, I got stuck on the bosses before her. So I never finished it. I got too overwhelmed. It's a hard game. But then you've got Cypher. I got a lot of comments about Cypher, and they were all kind of funny because it was like, they let him back into Seed, but why would they do that? Was kind of the main thing. Like, after all the things he's done, like, how dare them? Like, they're stupid, which I totally agree. He's an asshole, I guess, but like that's really all I can say about him. We have some really He is, and we have some funny comments about him in our like group Google Doc. It says mine was, I don't think I can forgive him for being a little shit to Zell as an orphan. I put the problem child, and somebody, I don't know who, put he's Randall from Recess. Who put that?
Yeah, so interesting thing with Cypher, if I'm not mistaken, was that Cypher's mind, I want to say, because he wanted to protect Edia, and I don't know if it had something to do with him being more cognizant of their past than the rest of the team was, which was kind of driving him to want to do that. I know he eventually kind of like almost got pseudo obsessed, like, or maybe obsessive with the sorceress, being the sorceress's knight.
Right.
But yeah.
I wonder if that. Oh, go ahead, Vanessa.
Sorry. I know that in somewhere in the game you find out that Cypher watched that movie that Laguna starred in, where he's a sorcerer's knight and he's taking down the dragon.
Really?
And as a kid, that kind of like inspired him to have the dream of becoming a sorcerer's knight when he grows up. So that was like a childhood dream he had.
Right.
Which is
that's crazy. And then it's almost like, I don't know, that type of thing that you want something so bad that you'll do anything. Like, I think of like Slytherins from Harry Potter, how they're very ambitious, and even if they do it in a bad way, as long as they do what they want, like their goals in the end, then it's like good for them. I think of like, who is it that I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of like the Death Eaters, how they want to be like all powerful, and they go in these horrible ways of doing it, but that's what they want. That's kind of what Cypher did as well. Chi-Ji says Cypher had some weird motives. I think he just wanted to be special. I kind of agree with that, yeah.
I mean, bullies have that thing where they're generally uncomfortable with themselves, so then they take it out on people around them. So, I mean, Cypher is a bully.
Yeah, for sure.
He bullies people who he thinks could be stronger than him, but they don't realize it. And that's like the best target for a bully. First of all, it boosts their own self-confidence, and it lowers their rivals down. And that's kind of like his MO.
Right. Doctor, do you have any thoughts on Cypher? Did you get, because you said you didn't finish this. I mean, no. You're like, keep me out of this one.
9 and on I'm good for, but 8 from the very beginning, I did not like it.
It's such hard because like I'm playing it right now, so I have so much to talk about. But yeah, so let's move on from 8. Let's kill that. We've got some interesting villains there. So now we're going to move on to 9 with Kuja. I've never played 9, so I'm going to leave this up to you guys. I'm just going to say our statement about Kuja, and then it's up to you guys. So Glasgow Gamer, he's in our Discord, says, I'm quite new to the series, but I have to say that my favorite has been Kuja from Final Fantasy IX. I could understand his motives. He was deadly, and he was also quite remorseful, which is strange for a villain. So that's interesting. I don't know much about Kuja. Yeah, I just know that his like outfit is a little much for me. Like, but I mean, Doctor, what do you have to say about Kuja?
Well, I would actually, I know we're starting on Kuja, but I'm going to kind of start with, in my opinion,
Braun.
Yep, exactly. Braun.
Oh,
yep.
like Queen?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Go ahead, yeah.
Just because I know I was looking over the doc and we didn't really exactly mention her.
Yeah.
And I know that Braun was like kind of I don't want to say enslaved by anybody, but like convinced, I want to say. She was suffering from the loss of the king.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she was kind of very susceptible to her want for greed and conquest and power, so much so that she was willing to risk the lives of anyone around here to get what she wanted.
Right.
And what I really appreciated about 10 is, or I'm sorry, 10. What I really appreciated about 9 was that in comparison to 7 before it and then 8 before it, it felt from the very beginning very lighthearted, but at the same time very serious. The one scene that always plays in my head is when, why am I forgetting the names? The knight is chasing them out, or trying to capture them. Steiner. He takes the rope out of the castle, and he's trying to get to the one castle, and you just see his face, like he's screaming in horror. And from that point on, you kind of, the reason I'm leaving that in is the whole game from there kind of felt whimsical, but being serious. So as soon as you see Brahmin, she's so exaggerated.
Yeah,
she is. She's big and she's blue and this big wild hair. You're like, oh, okay, so this is a bad person, you know? And you didn't really need to know anything else about her.
I never played the game, but isn't that Garnet's mom? Or like...
Yes.
Okay, that was always weird to me.
Yeah, stepmom. Yes.
Okay, I was like, wait, how did that...
Which actually is really important because that kind of goes back into what I was saying before. That Braum was willing to cast aside any danger that was she was setting forth. Like, she was risking the life of her own daughter.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that was a good place to start with this, because Braum, like, a lot of people could say that, yeah, well, she was taking control almost over by Kuja, but at the same time, it was because she was just susceptible to it because of her own failings, her character flaws, greed and power and lust for, power.
Right.
I mean, her issues, Braun's issues, driven by Kuja to some extent. I mean, she laid waste to a lot of people in the world. Like, I want to say especially the Burmesians, both of their cities got leveled because of her.
Right.
The one in the tree and then the other one that you got to first. So, I mean, she definitely had a huge impact. And I think when she was, I want to say, killed by Bahamut, because she kind of like got so greedy that she was like, screw you, Kuja, I'm going to do my own thing.
Right.
But yeah, Kuja being the main, I guess you could call it the main antagonist. And I think that's kind of like set in stone from like the position that Final Fantasy took with Dissidia and other things. They like Kuja is the other, but without her, like, he needed her to get a lot of things started. So
yeah.
Good call.
Well, then Kuja, so I don't think we can almost talk about Kuja too much until we talk about Garland. So because Garland created Kuja, correct?
The whole genome thing, the genomes.
The whole, yep.
Yeah, we'll go back to Kuja, but I do feel like we do need to talk about Garland, or Garland, sorry, not Garnet. I don't know much.
An amazing name
dagger
they used for him too.
Yeah, because Garland's the antagonist in 1 as well, so I was confused. They recycled that, they recycle a lot of names, but I was surprised that they did that with a villain. I mean, I guess they did it with the Sids, but I guess because he claimed that Kuja was a failure.
It's a defect.
As a defect. So I don't know I don't know much about Garland. Again, I haven't played the game, but I feel like he almost plays God from what I read about him, how he's creating people. I don't know, maybe someone else has more insight about that than I do.
The entire idea behind, I want to say, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, the planet that they were from, I want to say one of them's Gaia, one of them's Terra, right? Mm-hmm. Their population needed a place to plug their souls, correct?
Right.
Which is what the genome was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say they were trying to get to the point where they killed enough souls. Somebody help me here. They killed enough souls in the other world to get them to flow over into the new one. Is anybody, Doctor, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think so. That sounds familiar to me. He was.
I want to say that's like Garland's whole plan was to like. I want to say combine both worlds together, but really like get the version of the life stream to like spin in, where then the souls can start being embedded into this other planet.
Yeah, he was created with Terrans, and he was trying to, like you said, he was fusing Terra's crystals with Gaia's was what he was trying to do.
God. Mm-hmm. So he's just trying to make
and that's
impossible possible, pretty much. Which ended up in Kuja. We all saw how that went.
Well, Kuja was supposed to be like fanning the flames to get people killed. I want to say, like he had a mission, and he was just doing his mission, but under this, behind the scenes, he had his own agenda, and Garland caught on real quick with it.
Right.
And that's when he was sucking away his summons, his eidolons, right? Every time he would get a new one, the eye would come up in the air, would suck it back up, and that was Garland and his ship.
Okay. Vanessa, have you played 9? Do you know much about this one?
No, I haven't played it. I have it backlog, but we all know how well I am with that backlog.
I know.
We all.
I know we're all like, I feel like these middle ones, these are like the awkward middle child, even though you've played them or you haven't. Like it's not even like, like between like 8 and 9 and maybe 10, like it's like the awkward middle child. But
I was actually gonna say the same thing. I think for a lot of people in my age group, at least, everybody kind of stuck to 7, 8, or 9.
Really,
like one of those games struck a chord with someone in every age group, I feel like. And that's why I think there is so much argument, because you hear all the time 7 was the best, 9 was the best. Some people like to say 8 was the best, and they're allowed to say those words out loud. But
then they replay it and they realize they're wrong.
So, no, I can't. I'm just
you
kidding.
guys can just finally finish it and realize how great of a game it is.
I know.
That's absolutely fair. That's 100% fair. That's actually why I'm excited.
Right.
That's why I'm excited to go back and play it, actually, because I did not finish it, and so I can't say it was a bad game. I'm just razzing, I guess.
Right. It's exhausting. Chiji says Kuja's fear of death led him to rebel against his fate, and one of the few villains in the series that actually felt remorse for what he's done. I think 9 is the best of the single-player Final Fantasies. So, yeah, we've got this this age group that is very much, this came out when we were little. So, and then I was reading on Kuja again. I don't know much about him, but he kind of had a tragic childhood, and he pretty much the making of a serial killer is what I put. So I don't know if that's like completely accurate, but that's what I got when I was like reading about him. So I don't know what you guys think about that.
Garland's whole purpose of him was to do that. So yeah, I mean, it's not far-fetched.
I was going to say, that's also kind of a reoccurring theme in not even just the Final Fantasy series, but video game in general. When anybody was made for a singular purpose, it always feels like that blows up in everybody's face.
Right.
Sephiroth was also made for a kind of a singular purpose. He was a super soldier, right?
Right.
And then when he realized what he was and came from that, again, blew up in everybody's face. So
right.
I think that's a good tell, right? Now, if we think about it, anything like, oh, you were made for this, and you have to keep an eye on this person.
Yeah, that's true. And then Lee Puri says the very cutest looks. I disagree. I think this look is very unsettling. Whenever I look at, I almost said Necron, Kuja, I just get an unsettling feeling. I just want him to go away.
Largely uncomfortable.
Yes, it's just like too much for me. But let's go on and move on, because I think we could talk about this one all day. But I got so many tweets and so many responses about Necron, and just, I think everyone said the same thing. He came out of nowhere. Who the hell is this villain that you have to fight? Yeah. Literally, it's the only notes we have about this villain is where the hell did he come from? Like, Lieutenant, you mentioned quite a bit about your confusion with this character. If you want to.
Well, so confusion, not necessarily, but I mean, I know what you mean. I mean, I know why he's there.
Yeah.
But talk about out of left field. Like, they could have ended the game with the fight with Kuja, or they could have made Kuja turn into Necron. It would have made more sense and story flow better.
Right.
It's just like, okay, you beat the guy you've been trying to beat the whole time. By the way, there's this other guy, and he likes to quote Star Wars. I mean, it's, I mean, he does. He because the two of you and the Vanessa and you guys haven't played it, right?
No.
So yeah, fear leads to anger leads to hate leads to suffering. Quote word for word from Necron, one of his first quotes, and he only had 6.5 of them.
Really?
So but it is a thing in 9. FYI, side note, they used a lot of pop culture references in this game, a lot. When he mentioned about it being a more lighthearted, it's definitely a very humor. It's like the 5 of the PS1 Final Fantasies. It's comical, but it has its own little dark spot in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was it's a reach back. So you had your 6, 7, and 8, which were more modern, steampunky, futuristic stuff, and they took 9 and they're like, we're gonna go back to our roots. And I really feel like they borrowed from a lot of 4, 5, 3, 4, 5 kind of themes. So.
Right, because I even noticed, looking at the game, the colors are a bit different from 8 and 7, which were very dark and eerie, while 9 was very colorful. And I noticed that just as a passive viewer of the game. Chiji says Necron was a strange choice to put him in, but he showed up because Kuja tried to destroy the crystal, and he's like a god of death. So he assumes the attempt on the crystal meant people didn't want to live anymore or something. Is that, Lieutenant? Does that sound?
Yeah, I think I feel like in layman's, it's probably about as best as you're going to explain it, like without like going into the freaking guides and encyclopedias and stuff and figuring out the lore. But I mean, essentially, he's just like, you have enough destruction, death, blah blah blah. It's time for me to come down and make planets collide and stuff, which is what he liked to do.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's just as far as a creative choice. They could have done literally anything else than bring in Necron.
It's almost just like a big plot hole.
He was a real beat to fight too, which was just part of the problem. Like you conquered the story, you got your stuff squared away, and then this guy out of left field comes out, fights you, and he's not easy. God. And then you get wiped, and you got to fight all those freaking battles all over again.
Wait, so he's the final boss, right?
Yeah, he's the final of a string of bosses.
Ah!
Yeah.
Oh, hell no!
You gotta fight Kuja's dragon, I think, and then you gotta fight Kuja, and you gotta fight Trans Kuja. I forget all the different bosses you fight in a row, but yeah, it's annoying.
It is
I would also like to mention that I had to look this up when we were talking because I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but I knew there was something weird about the final boss. It may have felt weird, and this is just like kind of like just me making guesses maybe, but Necron was originally not planned to be the final boss of the game.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And it was switched out. Yeah, it was supposed to be Hades.
Yeah.
Actually.
Wait.
But that was scrapped, yeah. Hades later becomes an optional boss. He's, I don't even remember, honestly.
Okay, because I'm like, I saw Hades somewhere. That's Emmett Selch. Okay, never mind.
Wait, okay, so no, I'm thinking Diablos. Hades he wasn't a GF, right?
No, I don't think so. He was changed to be an optional boss later in the production.
That's almost just random.
I think that's why neither of them were very fleshed out though, because they were kind of like and then they like picked one.
Right.
You know what I
mean? Even so, like I was like, oh, where did Hades come from? I've seen that before, but I'm thinking that's in 14. That's not even in this game that I know.
Hades. I was gonna say Hades was that's another summon that kind of pops up in all the various different games. As like
7, I think, and there's
7.
A few other ones.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So 9 is just a clusterfuck. Sometimes it seems like to me.
It can be.
Yeah,
it's such a charming game, though.
It's really good as far as like start to finish, story progression until that moment.
Yeah.
And as soon as you beat him, it's like he never was even there. The story presses like you could take him out of the game.
Yeah.
And everything happens exactly how it did.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I would love to go into this one more, but I'm really excited to talk about 10. Yes. I think all of us are. So I've got our first two here. Can
I make one final shout out?
Yes.
9 related. Just because my favorite summon of any Final Fantasy, all the Final Fantasies that I love as a reoccurring character is Alexander. Too.
Oh yeah.
So it was very exciting. I don't have anything else to say about it. I just love Alexander. I just wanted to say.
That's also a raid in 14, which is one of my favorite raids actually. So I do
so good.
I love the Alexander raids, and the music are good. Yeah, I didn't know that one appeared in 9 because I have been seeing Alexander.
You don't ever get to use him. You don't ever get to use Alexander.
Oh, okay.
It's at the very end.
Wait, no, Alexander's also an 8 too, though, because you get him from a boss. Yeah. I just got him.
Alexander is
Okay, yeah, Alexander's
7 as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. I need to replay 7. It's been too long. Anyways, 10. I'm replaying 10 too, so I have a lot to say about it. We're actually going to be maybe talking about 10 a little more next week and some other things. So I'm excited about that. But we're going to start.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yes, maybe about some fake religion. We don't know. But yeah, we're going to talk about Sin Inject first. You can't talk about one without talking about the other. So yeah, I mean you can, but I feel like they go hand in hand. I don't even know where to start with this one. So much. I mean, Sin is just a terror of destruction. I don't know. Who wants to start with this one? Because I don't even know where to start. There's so much to say.
I actually think we should start with Sin rather than Jack.
Okay, let's start
because
with
even though you know that you kind of know, like, even less than halfway through the game that you kind of go, oh, Jecht is Sin before even Tidus realizes it.
Yeah.
You're still introduced to Sin before Jecht.
Right, and Sin is like...
In a large capacity, rather.
Right, and I feel like Sin is... I remember this was one of, not the first, but like one of the first that I played, and seeing this and being like, we kind of all like have a Sin in our world where we have like, you know, these crazy earthquakes and like natural disasters that kind of happen like this. He's almost like the embodiment of a natural disaster for me. How he just comes in and just destroys everything and then leaves. I mean, that's what I get from him, but I don't know. What do you think, Lieutenant?
Well, so if we're going to talk about Sin, then briefly, I know we're not probably going to talk too much about the sequel, but the sequel fleshes Sin out in a big way without even realizing.
We can totally go into that, yeah.
Sin was essentially a byproduct of the war between Bavel and Zanarkand, where the summoners of Zanarkand were on rope. Yeah, they're on the ropes, right? Bavel's about freaking tearing them up. And so then Yevon, you know, summons the final summoning, does his little, however he gets to that, wears Sin as his armor, right? That was the only one that didn't require a faith, I think is what they were saying. And then, yeah, that started the whole cycle. At that point, the only way to beat him was to do the final summoning by using somebody you were super close with that was willing to let you do this. And then they were able to have the power to overcome Sin, but then Yevon would just hop into him. And I know we'll talk about Yevon, but it's all really kind of connected, right?
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
100%.
And then Sin, it was just Sin would destroy till some grand or, you know, major summoner was able to be strong enough to fight him. Which leads you eventually to Jecht, right?
Right.
Being the faith of Braska.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about this one for sure. We have so many notes for this one too, but Doctor, I mean, what do you have to say about Sin? He's just terrifying.
I think that 10 really, really leaned in to trying to get as much symbolism into the game as possible.
I agree.
I feel like you can, like, I really think that was like, I almost think that on a storyboarding level, they had a point to try to relate this to like real world applications as much as possible. And every time I played the game subsequently, I kind of got a little more out of it.
Yeah.
But Sin is kind of a representation, obviously, like the whole, we use Machina and that's why Sin exists. And it's Sin is just a punishment for all of the wrongdoings of humankind, which feels strange because maybe I didn't pay enough attention, but the whole thing was like, well, why doesn't Sin like Machina? And then they were just like, because he doesn't. And then there wasn't a real explanation behind it,
right?
That I found.
Well, it really reminds me of like, you know, like, and this is like kind of out of not even left field. It's kind of like those people that are like, this is happening because of the homosexuals. Like, it's so stupid and out there, and it's not true, but it's like almost like Yevon is like that extreme Christianity where it's like, it's because of Machina. Machina's bad, but it's like, but why is Machina bad? And they're like, because we said so. Like, you know, just kind of how it felt like for me, like with this.
Interesting enough, too, I have read some articles that all the symbolism they use is they actually did refer to a lot of not just Christianity but other real world religions to build a basis off of how the game's inner workings work.
Right.
So I think it's kind of interesting to say. Right.
Well, then Yuna, or like the summoners, are like Jesus characters. I mean, we'll get into this more in another subject, but like how they have to sacrifice themselves to save us from sin. Like it's so obvious, the correlation, and even that the name is just Sin. It's hard to ignore that. So
exactly that they really.
It's almost the part that you mentioned there about the summoners sacrificing themselves to save us from sin is almost Xenogears blatant level of correlation made, because I can't know if any of y'all ever played that game, but that's like in your face. Everything is named like straight out of religion, right out of the Bible.
There's no hiding
Adam, no, they're not even hiding it.
No.
Now, while there's a lot of correlations that some people will make between specific religions, and I think one thing is just being, because I mean it's not just religion either. People can get brainwashed and using brainwash is kind of like a strong term, or obsessed with a system of beliefs that not necessarily is religion. The whole point is, I think the game's theme might be step back and think for yourself. And don't just follow along with what everybody else is doing, because then you get the Titus character to get placed, basically outside looking in, and he can just very quickly be like, you guys have no idea what you look like right now. And of course they don't. They've been born and bred into whatever, society that they're in.
Right.
And he's taboo left and right. Running in, you're not allowed to go in there, but the summoner.
Yeah.
And then he's
stay away from our summoner.
And I think we can. It's very easy to bash religion, but there's other, belief systems, I think, that might not be religious based, but it's just that whole idea is like always question.
Yeah.
And to add to your point too, at the end, their party were the ones who finally did step back and reassess the situation, and that ultimately is what ended the entire cycle.
Right. That's very true.
Absolutely, that was really, really well. Good job.
Yeah. I think we're going to talk about this one more next week, definitely. But Vanessa, do you have some last thoughts about Sin, our big boy Sin here?
Our big boy Sin?
Yeah.
He's just scary. I just remember being like 10 and playing this and just being terrified of him, and all like little mini boss battles where you fight like certain parts of him, but you wouldn't fully see him.
Yeah.
And when you finish Xanarkin and you're leaving, you just see him in all his glory. You're like, oh, it's a giant whale turtle thing.
Well, then in 14, they have a raid, and I don't remember the character's name, but it looks a lot like Sin. I was actually playing it the other night, and I was like, it looks like a Sin character with wings or something. I can't remember. It was
like
the Limitless Blue. Maybe.
Bismarck, right?
Yeah, so I was like, it's just interesting. It's such a weird...
Just FYI, I've never played Final Fantasy 14, but I've played every other Final Fantasy, and Bismarck is kind of like your whale character.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. But yeah, we could go into Sin all day and kind of what he represents and everything. It's a very complicated topic, and I really applaud Square Enix for this one. I think it's maybe one of their most well-written, for sure. Because not only do we have Sin, but we have Jecht, who is Sin. And I have to say, because now I'm replaying the game, the way that they just say Jecht is Sin, it was kind of lackluster. I wish I kind of liked in a way, because it was just it just was out there. It wasn't some big reveal. Yeah, Orange just he's Sin. Get over it. Stop crying. It was just kind of there. So
at the same time, though, I think that was on purpose. I think that if you really look back on it, Orin did treat it as this is no big deal, almost don't cry about it, because he needed to take that shock away from Titus. Can you imagine how the game would have ended if they got into Sin and then he sees his dad and realizes it then and there for the first time?
God.
They would have not been able to win the fight, because he would have been out of commission. He would have let his emotions take control.
Right.
I think the entire point of that whole, it was taking the emotion out of it to try to separate him from the fact that it's a big deal.
Right, and he does refer to it all the time. Ever since then, he's but he's my dad. That's why I hate him.
Yeah,
I think you're right, and I think that's why. Lil Puri says he truly would have flipped, which I agree. And Titus is a very emotional, sensitive character.
He wouldn't have been able to handle that Zidane level shock at the end.
No.
And Zidane bounces back. Titus would have been out of commission.
Yeah, no, he's a very sensitive character, and even though he hates his dad, I think he has a lot of feelings, a lot of conflicting feelings, and I think that's through the game you can see that, where he's just it's him
not knowing how to feel,
and it's hard for us.
I'm telling you, that scene at the end, it's one powerful sequence after another. I mean, you're met with, he starts vanishing a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Yuna looks at him and shakes her head no, and I'm like, ooh, okay, that hurt.
It does hurt. And
then he's walking away, and she, or she's walking away. She's like, I love you. And he comes up behind her and he walks through her, and I'm like, ah, and then he jumps off the the freaking airship, and then he gives his dad a high five, and I'm like, allergies, you know. It's just
allergies, ugly. Everyone's like ugly crying. Yes, ugly.
Yeah. It never gets easier to watch.
Everywhere. Where's my Allegra?
Right. I think he deep down really loves his dad, but like he's just had so many issues with him, and that's understandable. I think a lot of people that have like issues with their dad, they truly really want to love them, but it's hard to, especially after everything that's happened.
It wasn't even his dad that was the problem.
Yeah.
It wasn't even his dad that was the problem. We find later on it was because his mom ignored him because of his dad.
Exactly.
So and he was jealous of his dad because his mom wouldn't pay attention to him.
Simultaneously, though, Jet also was pretty like emotionally unavailable.
He was a shit dad, yeah. And
so I think I exaggerated for sure. Yeah, you're right though, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. Vanessa, what do you have to say about our daddy Ject?
Daddy Ject.
I don't like that.
Our father.
I say big boy too much.
Symbolism now.
Oh my god. He's our daddy Ject.
Daddy Ject. No, I just think that his character development throughout the game is pretty cool to watch. Like you see him super selfish in the beginning. He's like a drunk. He's all like me. And then he kind of redeems himself by like making this like sacrifice for the greater good. And I'm just like, oh, that's cute.
I forgot that he was a drunk because I didn't forget, but like now that you mention it, I like laughed really hard, like inappropriately when they were like, oh, he was so drunk that the shoe puff, he tried to kill it, and I was like,
yeah, he freaking killed a shoe puff.
Yeah, he tried to kill the fucking shoe puff, and then it was actually the same shoe puff that you ride on because it has a huge scar. Yeah, and I was like, oh my god, I never noticed that before.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, actually. I noticed that this time around. It's weird.
A miss. You have to like before you board the shoe puff. You could totally miss it.
Yeah, you have to talk to Oron, and he tells you the story. Then he goes, "Oh, it looks like it's the same one." And you look at it, and there's a huge gash on its leg. So yeah, it's really interesting. I think this plot was so well developed. Like every little thing, even that. Does anyone have any closing remarks about Sin before we go on to Yu Yevon, who's the daddy of all villains in this one? So
I'm waiting for Seymour. So.
Oh, I forgot. We have Seymour before you, Yevon. My husband, Seymour.
I thought you divorced him.
I have not yet. I have not gotten to that boss where I'm so frustrated that I want a divorce. So I am technically married to Seymour because on Twitter I was like, I would marry him. Yeah, I have not gotten there yet. Okay. Seymour is a tragic character for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. He's super tragic.
I think he's so tragic. I think that
his hair is tragic.
His hair is tragic, and his nails. Like sometimes, like in that really CGI scene when he's like holding you in his shoulders, and you can see how long his nails are. That freaked me out a little bit.
That's a lot of
his laugh is tragic. Yeah. So like,
oh my god! But I think he's pretty tragic. He's a half breed, and like, but the thing that made me laugh really hard is he is half breed. He's human and Guado. And they were like praising him. They were like, oh, he's going to bring together the Guado race and the human race. And he comes and he goes, must I always get such praise? And I was like, wow. I was like laughing so hard. I know. He's such a bitch, but I love him. I think he's also a very underrated character, which Chi-Ji is saying. But he's slimy. He definitely is. He's a slimy boy. I mean, Doctur, go ahead, Vanessa.
Oh, no. Go on. Go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, Doctur, go ahead, but you can go ahead first.
No, Doc, you go.
What do you have to say about Seymour?
Honestly, it's hard because there were certain story elements that were involved with, like, that were wrapped up in Seymour that I really appreciated. I really liked. Like, I thought, like, the revelation that his mom was the summon that turned into Anima.
Oh, and Anima is disgusting.
Yeah, and you can see not just disgusting, but Anima's like so tragic because like her ability Pain, I think it was Pain.
Yeah, it was Pain.
She would like it was like an ability that like, came out of her eye, and it was like almost like symbolic of her tears that she cried. That's why like there was always blood running down like the eye after being shot. And also, I think there's something to be said that the ultimate ability of Anima is like that underworld version.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Oblivion.
Yeah, Oblivion. Thank you. Oblivion. But honestly, that is the only part of Seymour I like. I thought he was almost detrimental to the game as a whole. I think the character sucks.
Why do you think that?
Thank you.
I think he's just whiny. It added a story element to the story that didn't honestly need to be there at all. And honestly, although no, here let me. I'm going to backtrack that just a little bit. I do think he was important in the sense that it showed complicity with the higher officials of the church.
Yes, very much.
That is an important story beat, but I think they could have achieved it in any other way.
Counterpoint is the purpose of Seymour from my standpoint, is to he needed to give Titus a rival, and not only that, like that whole everyone else pretty much liked the guy except for the player and Titus.
But Auron hated him.
Auron didn't say anything,
but he
knew.
He
knew shit, right?
Yeah.
But he knew everything about everything from the beginning. Like he knew about Unaleske, knew about the one dude in the Yevon. He knew everybody was dead already. But he wanted everybody to find that out on their own without being led to the truth, right? He wanted you to find your own answer.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Kimari, everybody liked him.
Wait, Kimari didn't though.
Kind of trusted him out. Kimari didn't?
No, Kimari was very...
Kimari stabbed him eventually. But, at the beginning when he was introduced, he didn't, try to fight him like he fought Titus right up front.
No, but Kimari was very reserved, very close to Tifa the whole... I mean, not Tifa, Yuna the whole time. Very, very, he wouldn't leave her side, and I noticed that because I'd always have to talk to everybody to get the cutscene to go. But he was very, very close to Yuna. He wouldn't leave Yuna's side, and when Yuna was alone with him, Kimari was very nervous and was just don't talk to me. So Kimari knew. Yeah. I think Kimari had that. Kimari definitely had, those reservations, but I don't think anyone really liked him. I mean, I didn't get that, at least from the characters.
He was beloved by the masses.
By the mass,
mass. Okay, I thought you meant our guardians, and I was like, meh.
The party member?
Yeah.
No, Waka loved him.
Oh, Waka.
That's true. Waka did love him.
And Lulu didn't have a problem with him. I mean, he's a Maester Seymour, but yeah, I'm talking about the world.
Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, I agree with you there. Because
Titus is clearly he hated him not for the reasons because he knew he was evil, not for the reasons because he had suspicions of intent. He hated him because he was macking on his girl.
Yeah.
So he didn't like that. He's back off, mother.
He's also and I thought that was sudden. He comes out of nowhere with a proposal, and that was I don't know. I guess they just had to keep the game going, but it just was so whisper in your ear.
I will backtrack my comments a little bit. You're right. Seymour did introduce a lot of very important story beats. I think I just didn't like his character.
Right. No, I don't either.
No, he's slimy.
But I think it's because they wrote me not to like him, and so I agree with the writers. It's he's a douchebag. But
but there are other
people that like him, and I'm I don't know how you can do that. But hey, everybody has their.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, a little further ahead though, because we're gonna be talking about him later in 14.
Yeah.
But there are other characters and villains that I absolutely hated, but I thought they were a good character. I hate Seymour, and I think he's a bad character.
Yeah, that's very true. There's definitely the villains that you absolutely hate because they're good villains, and then there's the villains that you just hate because they're just.
Yeah, you just suck. Every time suck. And maybe it was because his last fight was so hard.
Yeah.
And it pissed me off a real good amount, but I just every time
shit hurts.
Yeah, every single time that he was in the story for some reason or another, I just was my eyes rolling back into my head.
Vanessa,
here's this idiot again.
Yeah, Vanessa, do you have anything to say about Daddy Seymour?
Your daddy, not mine. Yeah, no, he's pretty tragic. When you get the Anima summon, you kind of get a bigger peek into his past. It really does make you feel kind of bad for him.
Right.
But then get therapy, dude.
I know, he had a tragic childhood.
Right.
He hates his father. I think we all forgot to say that he killed his dad. He just straight up murdered him. And he absolutely hated him for the way he was treated. So he definitely was kind of a serial killer, kind of like Kuja. Just had a tragic backstory and had the makings of a serial killer for sure. But let's move on because we still have quite a bit to go through. But you, Yevon, are overarching villain in this whole game. who is the weirdest looking thing ever. But
obviously, I have to preface this. He didn't look like that originally. That's like whatever he became after being dead for so long and being in sin. But yeah, I mean, the form they settled on for like his appearance.
It looks like an octopus.
The tick. It looks like a tick, but yeah, maybe an octopus thing. I mean,
I think
that old butt with the freaking Yevon signal on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I also think that was a little bit by design too, because if you really think about it, he was just a shell, just of a non-threatening, and that bite you literally couldn't die.
You couldn't.
You could die, but you always had auto raise on you, which gave the player the knowledge that this is not a threat to us.
I didn't know. Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't gotten to that part yet. Interesting. Yeah.
Spoilers.
No, it's okay. I played the game before, so I haven't gotten there at this playthrough, and I feel like when you play as an adult versus a child, your views are very different. But I guess I never noticed that. So
yeah, the last big fight that you fight that's actually threatening is when you fight Vraska's final Aeon.
Such a fucked fight.
I'm not looking forward to
that final boss theme. Come on, guys, that was great.
Yeah, I love that theme. Got me pumped.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to like.
It's not the Sephiroth, the kind of like, or the Kefka kind of orchestrated, Latin quote.
I love that.
What's that again?
Go ahead, Vanessa.
Oh, the final boss theme. It's all like metal, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Doctor, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I always just really prefer the big orchestra for music. And but I do say like that it was a shredding song. I think the song would have been better without vocals.
Really?
Yes. I think it would have been infinitely just like a shredding guitar. Like I would have totally rocked with that. That would have been jiving with me.
Right.
But I don't know, like the vocals kind of threw it off for me a little bit. And it's you know what, it liked me too because like the song is only like 2.5 minutes long and it just loops over and over again. So,
it's just like, please stop.
Yeah, it's not a 14-minute like Kefka final boss theme. It's like where it's got phases and like
different movements.
Or same thing with like the the ending theme to this game, which is my favorite theme of all of Final Fantasy, where it has the Xanarkand and it goes into other scores, and it's like a very long score. It's my favorite for sure. And also, I'm crying ugly crying over the ending at the same time. Maybe that's why I like it so much. But like, it's kind of a release.
Comes on, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much to say about this character because I think we're gonna go into it a lot more next week when we talk about religion. So I don't have a ton to say that's like quick, other than like. There's a lot to unpack with the religion and just like he's this I don't even know what to call it. This
I have to say though, like he's the subject of the religion, but Yevon himself is not who created this religion. He has no say in it. That's just the people who were taking advantage of because they were in positions of power, taking advantage of the Sin character. But yeah, I mean, Yevon. I mean, if you look back at what he was trying to do. Which again, kind of almost requires you to look into lore or the Final Fantasy X-2 story, and what Yevon was trying to do, and then what the shitty hand that got dealt to him because of what he did.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it never freaking ended because he doesn't want to die. I don't know. It's just it's almost crappy, like. But there's a lot of story there. But that religion piece is separate. It's like, oh, how do we take advantage of everyone in the world because of this flying monster of doom?
Right, and it's almost like because this was not Yevon's, this is his final form, I should say. But I think of like those like people or those villains that want to live forever and what they actually become, and it's just like this ugly shell of a person, and that's kind of what this reminds me of. But I do have 2 statements to say before we move on to 12. We're not doing 11. We decided to skip that because I don't think any of us have played 11. And I had somebody that was going to tell me more about the Antagonists, but she never got back to me. So we just decided to skip it for today because we have a lot more to talk about. But from Leon Belmont X, who is James on Twitter, he says that Jecht is my favorite. I love how he makes Tidus's personality, invests in his journey, and how we both see Tidus and Jecht's growth as characters as the story goes on. And we did talk about that quite a bit. Drowned Summer. he says, if he's still here, I think he's doing his stream right now. 10 is a weird one, as while technically Seymour is the antagonist of the game, he's also sort of like a side villain. He's a foil to Yuna, summoner, mixed race, dead parents, legacy to live up to. So, definitely.
Yeah, that's actually a good draw there.
Yeah.
He is the anti-Yuna.
He is, yeah, he very much is, and and he wanted to create this unity with Yuna, and it's such a big game to unpack.
Okay, about that unity thing. The freaking Guado wanted to create the unity with Yuna. All he wanted her for was so she can use him so he could become her faith to become the next Sin.
Yeah.
That was Seymour's whole thing from the beginning.
Right. He wanted to be a killing machine. He just wanted to destroy the world. He hated the world. He did for how it was treated. But let's move on. We could talk about this all day. I could say that with all these characters. So we're going to go on to 12, which is another one I have not played. But Vanessa, I know you are very excited to talk about 12. The first ones I have are Sid and Vayne. So go ahead, Vanessa. Tell us about Sid and Vayne. I don't know much about these guys.
Oh, God.
Pick one and talk.
Pick one, yeah.
Let's go with Vayne.
All right.
You want to go with Vayne?
Sid's character in the game. I kind of glossed over him, probably because he didn't look like the Sid from 10, and I was disappointed. I don't know. It's stupid. Why? Anyways.
Sid's great.
Vayne is trash, dude. Like,
is he?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure he killed his brother. Like,
oh Lord.
His brother. Sorry, it's been a minute since I played 12.
No, it's all good.
Sorry.
This one did come out. I do have a statement from Drowned Summer as well about 12, about these two characters, so I'll say that first, then we'll go on. But 12 is a weird one. While a fantasy setting is also very political, Vayne and Sid technically the antagonists, but unlike many Final Fantasy villains, they technically have noble aims, placing the destiny of, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Ivalis's races back in their hands and away from the Akuria. Again, I haven't played this one. Just mass murder and political skullduggery are their main ways of achieving this. For the most part, the party doesn't even interact with Sid and Vayne. That much are unintentionally guided by their actions of charting their own parallel course. That's a lie. I know a little about 9, but this one I know absolutely nothing about, so I'm going to leave this to you guys. Lieutenant, you go first.
Okay, so that Akuria thing that you got partway through the game, halfway-ish, I'd say, you end up meeting like these people who are kind of, and I might need to get guided to help me and realize what their aims are, but you have this people who are kind of guiding the world. I don't know if they're like your Illuminati kind of, I don't know what they're doing really, but you have one of them who, what was his name? He always whispered, Sid, Vana. Yeah, Vana. Yes, Vana. He's always talking to himself.
Oh
right?
my God.
Sid is one of my favorite villains in Final Fantasy XII. A, he's got character. B, he's not the obvious, like, oh yeah, that's the final boss of the game within the second hour of the game. Like, I knew Vayne was the big bad from the moment the game started. Like,
really?
They didn't even try to freaking hide it. Well, at least I didn't feel like they tried to hide it. When he came out, he was, trying to help the people of Dalmasca, because I'm over here, I'm representing the Empire. It's like, it was so easy to know this is the bad guy.
Sure.
Sid had character, which was something different than a lot of the blander characters that I get in the Evilise series. And I know people who love Evilise Alliance and they love tactics and I enjoy playing the games. The characters are not deep.
Doctor's like, hell yeah.
I know exactly what a character is going to do, like based on what their whole shtick is. And it's right up front. So but Sid was different. Sid had a desire and something with this Vana character. And I think that was like the key to what drove Sid to what he's doing, but
right.
But that Akuria thing, trying to get the world or the reins of history back in the hands of man, or whatever that statement was that Sid said over and over and over again, trying to make humans in control of their future, people take control of what they're doing and not being guided or forced or directed, and that by itself is a noble, I'd say noble cause, which I think is what Drowned was saying. Well, that was Drowned, right?
Yeah, that was Drowned Summer.
I can see that, but what they ended up trying to do to go about getting that, that's where they start failing, I think. The actions they took.
Doctor, what do you have?
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I was
going to pass it off to the next person.
Yeah, so Doctor, you seemed like you had some opinions while Lieutenant was speaking.
Not any contradictory opinions, really. I would like to say I think it is important to... I'm not sure if you said it. I'm sorry, I was lagging a little bit, so I had robot voices for a little bit. But I'm not sure if you mentioned. But it's also important to his character that he's like really obsessed with the powers of the Magicite.
Oh, okay.
The Nethicite?
Nethicite.
Yeah.
Sid.
He does look like a mad scientist to me. Just kind of like that vibe.
My counterpoint, though, to Vayne, and maybe this is just me being ignorant when I played, but like, for a little bit of 12, I almost felt like Vayne was presented in a way where you thought he was going to be a bad guy, but then later it turned out that he was fine. And the reason I say that is because when you meet Larsa as the character, being the younger brother of Vayne, and how he has still had like kind of faith in Vayne for a little bit.
Right.
And I can't remember the exact point in the game. There's a point in the game where you exactly know that, okay, Vayne is for sure a bad guy, and it's not going to be a redemption thing later.
I think that was when he killed his dad, wasn't it?
Did
he kill his dad?
That sounds like somebody.
I haven't played in kind of a while, but there was a scene where
I thought his dad was alive. The Emperor died, and they very well made you realize like it was probably Vayne that did it.
Maybe.
I thought.
I feel like we're all a little fuzzy. I mean, I've never played it. I've
literally get my empires crossed here, but
I'm super fuzzy. I'm drawing a blank, and I was like so ready for
That's
this.
okay. And I mean, from what I've been seeing and what I've been reading, these two seem like very political. This game seems very political and like very political characters. At least that's what I've been observing. Again, I've never played.
Storyline, yeah.
Yeah, and they seem interesting, but I do want to hear about the judges. Because you guys talk about the judges. Someone in chat just mentioned the judges. I
was actually gonna.
Yeah, so we have a thing about the judges. I don't know anything about them. So Vanessa, I'm gonna have you start because you were the one that was like, yes, the judges. When we talked about this before, you were like all about them. So.
Okay, so I know like Gabranth is like the big one, right?
Yep.
Like
Chief Justice or whatever they call him.
Yeah, Chief Justice. You like eventually battle all of them in the games, don't you? And then
I feel like you battled most of them. I'm not
The
sure.
large majority of them, yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find her. I have the art book in front of me right now, but I know that yeah, and then she didn't the other judges like her because she was trying to go against them.
Yeah,
because she was for Larsa, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she was like trying to protect Larsa or something like that, and then she gets killed, which sucks because she's like the only female. But
right, Chiji says that you fight all 5 at once. Do you guys remember doing that?
That is actually a part of the trial, the 100 trials at the end. It is a super boss at the end of the game.
Holy moly!
That rivals the difficulty of.
But it's optional, correct?
It is optional. It is. There's if you go into if you play the Zodiac version of the game, there is a menu where you can go and you can do like this trial mode, and it starts very easy. There's 50. I think there's 50. There's either 50 or 100 waves. It's 100 waves, but the last wave is a very, very difficult version of each of those bosses.
Oh my god!
But they're all at the same time. You have to fight them. And
your gambits better be set up, buddy, because you're gonna get rocked.
Wait, so
100 floors.
It's 100 floors. That's also in 14, isn't it? There's like, or it used to be at least. There was like a thing where you could go through 100 floors. Yes.
You're talking. That's 200 floors, and Heavens on High is 100 floors.
Okay, so there again, we're seeing the correlation between just this universe, but I mean, I don't know anything about the judges. I do remember seeing them in Dissidia, and I never had played 12. I played very little. I played like the beginning of 12 and gave up. I was really young. I just wanted to play 10 again. I had just gotten done with 10, and that was not good enough. So I do remember them, and they're very interesting, but I don't know. Does anyone have any closing remarks before we go on to 13?
Not storyline wise, but I always was drawn to the judges, just like how they had those unique armor sets that were so like cool looking. They were not bland at all, and they showed almost like flavor and personality. I think just like seeing the cover art of Final Fantasy 12, like one of the Zodiac edition, or maybe it was because I got the Steelbook version, but seeing the judges on it was just so cool, and I was in right away. I didn't know anything about them.
Yeah.
Like I thought they were good guys. Like you know.
So I feel like judges. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. This is just like a side note. I feel like in 15, you know how all of the past kings and queens had like their own outfit. Yes. I feel like it was heavily inspired by the judges in 12.
I agree. And now that I was wondering why these guys looked familiar, I was actually like, I was like, maybe I've just seen it because I know the game, but like, that does make a lot of sense. Oh my gosh. Lieutenant, what were you gonna say? Oh, it's okay.
Excuse me.
No, it's okay. But
so I have speaking of the Final Fantasy 12 Zodiac edition and the judges. So I was one of the fools that got the collector's edition, and it came with all 5 judges in the bust. I have them sitting in my office. They look like these giant chess pieces. They're like this big, and they're very detailed. I love those things.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm a big fan of collector's editions that I'm like older, but like when I was younger, I was like, meh. But let's go ahead and move on. We have like 3 more games to get through, and these are pretty big characters, so I don't want to rush through them. But we have 13, and we have 3 games in 13, and 3 very interesting villains. So Barthandelus is our first one. I remember the boss. I don't remember much about the villain. I do remember just kind of. I was more into like the characters of 13 than I was into like. This guy, Barthandelus, but we do have some notes on him. Actually, we have a statement from Drowned Summer as well. Drowned Summer says, "Is Barthandelus ever going to be seen as anyone's favorite Final Fantasy antagonist?" He just kind of went in the background for me, honestly. That's
Gallant Disley was not very interesting.
No.
He was more of an Emperor Palpatine character without being as cool.
Yeah.
None of the antagonists in the game, the sub-antagonists might have taken more like your Sid character who got kind of like owned, and then the other guy, I remember his name. He's like one of the military dudes that kind of like turned bad too.
Yeah.
They were more interesting than Disley. The female with the glasses.
Oh,
she
right.
was very interesting.
She was interesting.
But very short-lived, right? She didn't last very long.
Right. I don't know. All the antagonists for 13 are very, except 13 too. Like when we get into Kaya's Ballad, I think he was amazing. But the 13 villains kind of just fell to the back burner for me. It was more of like the Foul Sea stuff that I was into, like that, like really stood out to me. Yeah, and Orphan, that's what it is. I haven't played 13 since like 2012. It's been a while. But then Drowned Summer says he and Orphan have centuries in planning a scheme in order to bring back their creator by sacrificing Cocoon. Yep. The only question is, how do they know this will succeed? So it is kind of a big risk, yeah, for sure. But I mean, Doctor, do you have anything to say about Barthandelus?
Not particularly. I feel like I played the game exactly one time all the way through. And I had such a hard time with how the game progressed. I feel like I glazed over a lot of the storyline stuff in the game.
Right.
So honestly, I can't really remember too much about him other than, like you said, the fight itself.
Right. He is very much like, yeah, there's not much that, I don't know, again, like he just was very like underwhelming, I guess is the right word. Yeah.
The game was underwhelming.
I like 13. I like 13 too more. Especially Kaya's Ballad, who I'm very excited to talk about. But before we go on to him, is there any other remarks about Barthandelus? Nah, let's go on.
I mean, he was a bitch to fight.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that fight.
And I hated looking at them faces, yo.
Yeah, and it wasn't like each face like a different attack. Like you had to really pay attention to what faces were coming or something.
I think his hands had something to do with that too. But yeah he was just an ugly character. But I mean, he was a Foul Sea. And I mean, he's the recurring character bad that you fight multiple times throughout. I think at least twice,
right,
2 or 3 times through. But I mean, Orphan turned out like that was the thing that you had to kill in order to get to the Ragnarok piece. And I don't think that none of them really understood what the purpose of Ragnarok was.
No.
But holding up Cocoon turned out to be better than blowing it up.
Yeah. So let's go on to Caius Ballad because he is actually, I want to say, my favorite villain in all of Final Fantasy. Personal reasons mostly, but he's gorgeous. And I really like the Yule character. I wish that like 13.1 was completely scrapped and it was just 13.2 sometimes because I absolutely love Yule. I love it. I don't know why. It's probably because I roleplayed as Yule for a really long time on Tumblr. I'm going to be honest here. But I loved Caius Ballad. I thought he was so misunderstood and I like felt so bad for him. I was like, oh, he has to watch his like poor little Yule. I don't even know what kind of relationship this is because it changes every time she's reborn, but like die every like 12 years. Like she just dies and he's like, oh, my Yule again. And so no, that would turn anybody bad if they had to watch someone they love die like hundreds of times, you know.
Hell yeah. I would.
What, Vanessa?
I would totally be an awful person if I had to watch that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, look at Noel. Okay, so Noel witnessed Yule dying once.
Yeah, and it fucked him up.
And went across time to figure out a way to make it stop.
Yeah.
Like Caius has been watching Yule like die so many times. Well, ever since he got blessed with the Heart of Chaos.
Yeah, he's definitely interesting. I think I feel he's a very poetic character too. So like I know one of the quotes that stands out to me the most is when he's fighting Noel at the end and he goes like, he was like talking about all these Yules that he's had to take care of and like there's a Yule that loves to travel, a Yule that loves flowers, and like he loved them all, but he couldn't do anything. He had to just let them die because that was her fate. But I do agree he should have maybe done something if he did care that much. Noel was very much more I don't know. I don't want to say Noel loved Yule more. Maybe he did because he wanted to change it and Caius just kind of let it happen. But I don't want to count Caius as a villain. I don't, but he is. He definitely does some fucked up shit, but I just love him so much. I don't know. So, Doctur, what do you have to say about Caius? Oh, Doctur, you're muted.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I thought you were like thinking. You were like.
No, I like to mute between when I move around because I don't want my chair to be noisy, and sometimes I forget I've done that.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Here we are. For 13.2, I did not play 13.2. I did not enjoy 13.1, so I did not play 13.2 or Lightning Returns.
You guys suck. I'm just kidding.
You know what? No, I want to mention this really quick before I move on, because I feel like I've talked to some people about this so many times, but I feel like at the time the game was released, I was way more judgmental on the games because everybody has their favorite Final Fantasies and
right.
or their sub favorites, you know, those like top 3 or 4 that are just mean the world to you. And I feel like I kind of let that judgment get to me a little bit. Like if it wasn't, well, Final Fantasy 13 wasn't my favorite from those games, so I didn't view it as its own separate game like it should be viewed. I viewed it as, well, this wasn't as good as 10 or 7 or blah, 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 which is absolutely the wrong way to approach games.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually a big part of the reason why I'm streaming all of them in order, because I want to look at them as their separate own entities and make judgments on them.
Right.
So,
and it's definitely
I'm actually excited because I'm reading in the chat, actually. Chiji says 13 was okay, 13.2 was great, and 13.3 was good.
I disagree with that.
I've heard that 13.3 is like the best in the series from some people.
No! Sorry,
I
hated LR. I hated it. I loved the ending. Hated the game. 13.2 was great. Sorry, go ahead.
My biggest qualm with 13.3 was that it was called Lightning Returns, so in my Steam library, in my Final Fantasies folder, it's out of order. And therefore, the worst Final Fantasy game ever created.
How dare them? No, I hated 13. I always say 13.3, but I hated it. It was so stupid. I'm sorry. I really like the ending because, again, Caius shows up and you kind of see Caius. Well, he doesn't really get redeemed, but oh, God, it kills me when he lets Yule go to Noel and he goes, take care of her, because that's really all he wanted. He wanted Yule just to be a person and Yule to be happy.
One of the Yules.
One of them. That's a good point.
Right.
But he would have saved them all if he could, you know, like it's
somebody
Caius.
had to be the goddess of death.
Oh, right. And it had to be the rest of them. But that part was kind of unsettling when all the Yules show up and they're like all talking at the same time and you're like, what the hell? Yep. So, I don't know. Vanessa, do you have anything to say about Caius?
He's fabulous.
He's fabulous.
Love his outfit.
His voice is butter.
His voice is butter.
It could get you pregnant.
Well, you guys like a lot of these characters because that guy who plays Caius is like in almost every freaking anime Japanese video game out there. Like you always hear his voice everywhere.
Oh, has such a good voice. It was good. I love Caius. We do have a statement from Crepulus in our Discord that says Caius also has amazing moments. And then he said, and aside from Kefka, is the one villain who actually wins. At no point did Null and Sarah have any hope of winning, and the end of 13-2 is such a huge punch in the gut for it. So again, you guys have not played 13-2, but Sarah dies. And that was a punch in the gut. It hurts. It still hurts. Sometimes
spoilers.
So, sorry. I don't know. I assume everyone...
By the way, the main character dies.
But there's more that happens, so like you're not getting too spoiled. But it was a punch in the gut, and sometimes when I really want to be sad, I watch the ending to 13-2. Like when I'm like, I really want to just be more sad than I am right now, and then I'm like, but yeah, it is. He definitely was a character that achieved. God, Caius, but he had motivation. I think that's what I liked about him the most is that he had a motivation and he had a reason, and some of these characters don't. But let's go on. So. I don't have much to say about this character. I don't even know how to say his name.
Bunavelza?
Yes, Bunavelza.
Bunavelza was the whole, problem with this whole thing. Because, that was the Lightning Returns god that brought Lightning to be the savior. Her whole deal was to gather souls so then he could kind of parse through them. The ones that were good were allowed to go to the new world. The ones that weren't were going to be annihilated, and which you don't find that out until towards the end.
Yeah.
But Bunavelza is also, funnily to say, the name of that world, that machine world, that in 13-2, Hope's world that was supposed to replace Cocoon, New Cocoon.
Yes.
Also was called Bunavelza. Now, that probably had some historical things to it, and that's why, funnily, that Hope character was inside that world, and that's where he remained the entire Lightning's Returns game.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bunavelza, that fight against Bunavelza, the whole lead up to him being the big bad for the trilogy, really.
Yeah.
Because he's sleeping and he wakes up and now it's like, oh yeah, well, we're gonna just start the frick over because Noel kills Caius, right? That's the whole thing that started it. And you stop the Heart of Darkness or the Chaos.
The
Heart of Chaos. Yeah. That's it. And it leads to, which, since we are spoiling everything, it's just like the world of Lightning, like 13's world, is the creation of Earth. And that kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Well, then at the end, when you finish fighting him, they say we don't need God anymore. And
that was Lightning's quote was for Bunavelza, but that world that Bunavelza created, that was just waiting on souls to come to, that was Earth.
Right.
And then you see Lightning, her, I guess, reincarnated self stepping off a train, probably in France somewhere. It is it's not like an Earth it's geographically Earth. You can see the countries.
Oh, definitely. It's and I think it's almost kind of like they hyped Lightning up so much to be God. That's kind of how I took it, because she was like, we don't need God anymore, and just kills God, and it's in on Earth now. It's just it was a little bit. I don't know. I don't like Lightning that much as a character. I think she's fine, but whatever. So I don't know. Lightning 13 is just a ride, dude. I can't even I don't know. Doctur, Vanessa, do you guys have anything to say about Bunavelza?
About Bunavelza?
No. Oh my gosh, yeah. Again, it was like Barthandelus, where you don't really think about this one that much. Like, I honestly forgot. Like, I was like, all right, it's that guy with, like, the weird checkered cloak. You know? Like, that's what I thought of. But, we are gonna...
Bad teeth.
What?
I just said he had bad teeth.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, yeah, his, like, weird pointy-ass teeth. Ugh! He's unsettling. So we do have some really big ones coming up next. We have about 4 more. So we're on 14 now. So Nidhogg is... I wanted to go into Nidhogg personally because he is my favorite character, my favorite villain in 14. We have a lot about Emmett Selch. We have a lot about Xenos. So I will quickly go over Nidhogg. The only reason why I really like him is because I think his trial is awesome. I think it's a really fun fight. And also, the Dragonborn race is my favorite race in the game. So Nidhogg's an interesting character. He really... I have notes about him. He hates humans. He's like... He hates them. He wants to, like, eat them. So... yeah, he was my favorite. He just has, like, a strong presence. When I see Nidhogg, it scares the shit out of me. I don't know. But, Doctur, you play 14. So, I mean, what thoughts do you have about Nidhogg?
I do play 14.
Yes, you do.
I don't think I thoughts on Nidhogg. I think he was a generally, like, I don't want to say he was an unredeemable character, because what happened between the humans and the dragons in the years before happening tragic, and he did definitely let rage consume everything. And the more you learn in the storyline, the more you play, the more you realize that things got really fucked for the dragons, and they got the raw end of the deal.
Right.
But there were still other dragons out there that were willing to not think about not think about it, because you should always look at the past, and so you can grow to the future, but to try to, you know, settle the score in a sense of just getting rid of, because the Holy See was kind of a big problem at that point of the game, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of making it so the peace couldn't be born between the dragons and the races of Eorzea.
Right. And
so, I don't know. I think he's a complicated character, but I think he was real evil, right?
He was ruthless. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, ruthless is a good name for it, because I don't know. It's hard to say evil because there were so many injustices that happened to the dragons, but at the same time, he was ruthless.
He was,
and
I mean,
the war was always going to continue forever if he wasn't stopped.
Right, and I think he would have let the world fall up to pieces before he
let for sure
stop.
Oh yeah,
you know, it was very much, I mean, he lost his like family to like the humans, like he lost everything, so he has every reason. I really like Nidhogg as a character, and Heavensward is one of my favorite expansions, other than Shadowbringers. But Lieutenant and Vanessa, you guys are starting to play 14, so you have not gotten to Nidhogg yet. He's a big boy. He's a big boy.
Sorry if there's any spoilers in here, you two, because the storyline for 14 is incredible.
It's insane. It
is long though.
It is long and it is big.
It is long.
There's a lot to process. Like, I'm still processing it to this day. Like, and I've played through the whole thing. But with that said, unless Lieutenant and Vanessa, you guys have anything to say about Nidhogg, I know you have not really met him yet. But we do have the Selches. Not the Selches, sorry. The Galvuses. So let's talk about Xenos first.
Xenos, yes. Let's talk about him.
So I got a lot of messages about these two. I got a lot of messages about Xenos and Emmett. I think Xenos was just a textbook villain. I didn't really like him that much. He's cool. He's really terrifying when he comes at you, and it's like, but I just didn't see the appeal. A lot of girls are obsessed with him on Twitter. Like, they are like all obsessed with his ass and like how big his ass looks in his cloak. But I do have a statement pretty much saying that pretty much any villain in 14 is stellar, and power goes past everything else. Even Emmett Selch, who is probably the best villain in the series. That's Emmett Selch. We'll go into that later. But I don't know. I just felt like Xenos was just a textbook villain, just wanted to burn the world down and was just like, fuck you. So I don't know. Go ahead.
I think the reason why Xenos was such a good... I disagree. I think Xenos is an excellent villain. And I think the reason for that is because we actually kind of touched on it a little bit before. Lieutenant, you were saying how there didn't need to be a reason for like the evils of like final characters and their like understanding why they came from, which is true, but every Final Fantasy even kind of tries to address it with some backstory, even if it wasn't a good story.
Yeah.
they tried to do it. Xenos was just evil, and they leaned into it. He didn't give a shit.
He was evil.
And so evil, and he was so terrifying. He I don't know. I think that's why he was such a good character, though, because you didn't need to know a reason because he didn't have one.
No, and that's
a lot of the times he wanted to fight the Warrior of Light, your character, just because of how strong you were, and he wanted to be like, well, I'm the toughest,
right?
You know,
he was kind of full of himself.
Exactly.
What really tripped me out?
I mean, the salty spittoon.
Right. What tripped me out though was the ending of Stormblood. I'm sorry, spoilers. When he tries to off himself, and I was like, ah,
that was wild.
You've never seen that in Final Fantasy, where literally a character is cutting their own head off, and I was terrified. I was like, oh my god, ew. I hate this guy already, but he's disgusting. I don't know. This character was something, and he has. Oh, his eyes, everything about him is so scary.
Lieutenant's trying not to get spoilers.
Sorry. I was wondering why he took his stuff off. But
you ain't spoiling this for me, sister.
Oh, sorry. Chi-Ji says, I like Xenos because he only cares about testing his strength and putting his life on the line, and he has no interest in politics or the Empire, and now he's an awesome rival character. And
I would like... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything. Go ahead, Doctor.
I was going to say, I think we should tread lightly on the spoilers for this section in particular, because I do think that this is new enough that people are starting to play Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
So I think we should play it at a high level, because the storyline is excellent.
It
and,
is.
I don't want to, especially getting over with the next characters, spilling into Shadowbringers, that, that's the current game.
Right. We'll just go over the kind of their motives.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you, because Emmett Selch is pretty new. Under a year old. Or
at least being in the spotlight.
Right. And he's definitely a favorite, I've noticed. Our poll and our tweets have been all Emmett Selch. Chi-Ji, who's in the chat now, has a huge statement that's in our notes. I literally was like, wow, you wrote 5 tweets for it, Chi-Ji. I applaud you. But let us go to Emmett Selch. So Emmett Selch is Xenos' relative. I won't say how, but they are related, which was interesting to me, how they kind of played off of that. But everyone pretty much says he's the best villain of all time, and I think he has a lot of. I think a big thing for me with villains is motive, and he does have really good motives. So, Doctor, if you want to. It's hard to say things without spoiling anything.
So the only thing I'm going to say about this, because I think it's so important that people get to play this game and they get to experience the storyline, is I do think Chi-Ji says Emmett Selch is the GOAT of the series, which I can't debate it. He might be one of the best, if not the best villain in the Final Fantasy series.
Right. Well, the thing that trips me out. Sorry, go ahead.
And I would really sit down. I think he's top 3, certainly, hands down.
He is good, and even I agree. I think he was a very good villain.
Chi-Ji, I disagree. I think you can hate him.
I think some people do, but I think he's so charismatic, and that's a thing. I don't want to say too much, but he's so in your face. Not in your face, but he's there. He's at every corner. You can't avoid him. It's not like Xenos or Nidhogg, where they eventually come. He's there right from the beginning of Shadowbringers, and he is unavoidable, and he just and the character growth is really good. I really did like this character, and I think they did an excellent job with Shadowbringers in general.
And I honestly, I am at the edge of my seat waiting to see the conclusion of Shadowbringers as the patches come out. Honestly, every single patch that's come out, I've taken off time from work.
Really? I've taken my time with them.
Oh, I take my time, and I enjoy them, but I take my time so I can literally, I'm up at regular time. I don't go to work. I work from home, but, I don't log in.
Oh,
and I just play the game all day. I shut myself in my room.
I don't blame you, because
well.
They're beautiful. And the dungeons are gorgeous. They have some... Shadowbringers was just beautiful. The dungeons are so creative. Yeah?
So in order to get this story, the main story of 14, do I ever have to coordinate with more than 3 other people, or because what I found in MMOs with great stories, and then you have to do a freaking 18-man raid in order to figure out what happened at the end of this one boss. I'm never gonna freaking do that. So
I can answer that for you, actually. The answer is kind of yes, but you can queue up for them. You don't need to know the people.
No.
And Final Fantasy 14, like let me come at this as someone who was a veteran like World of Warcraft player. Like I was a mythic World of Warcraft player for a number of years. I did the high end content, I did the grinding, and when I stepped away from World of Warcraft, I quit this last expansion. It was just getting too stressful, too much for me. Especially like I remember just being like just getting like 300 deaths on a boss, like just grinding it hours a night, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And when I got to Shadowbringers, I approached when I approached Final Fantasy 14 initially, I approached it as this is an MMO, I'm not going to give a shit about the storyline, but I changed so quickly. And then I got that worry. I was like, I don't want to raid anymore. I don't want to spend the time doing this. But they do a particularly good job of making it very approachable for people who aren't hardcore raiders, who aren't willing to play with a bunch of people all the time.
And that's how I am as a player.
I would really say that you don't need to worry about that.
No, and I'm not a hardcore raider at all. As a player, I play the raids like very rarely when my friends want to play, and I feel like I got the whole story.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so you get a lot of Emmett Selchaway from the raids and a lot of the story. I feel like the story that comes from the raids is like cool, but it's not everything. Yeah, so and Shiji says I'm a super casual. It's really, you can play it as a casual game, but also really hardcore.
Yep, so. And just like Shiji said too, best online community in all gaming, super friendly. Absolutely. I mean, I remember, like I said, coming from a Mythic Raider when you're part of, like, I was a healer. Yeah. I've always been a healer. And I remember just like putting my head down on the desk as our raid leaders literally just like screaming in our ears for 15 minutes, telling us how bad we are, But like when you play like
every masters or whatever.
Yeah, when you go into a dungeon, everybody's like, "Hello, how's everybody doing today?" And like, if you accidentally do something, like, "Oh, no worries," and like everybody's so helpful. It's like it's almost weird and foreign. I was like, "What is going on?" Like,
I've only had one bad instance.
No one has told me to kill myself yet. This is so weird.
I've only had one bad time where someone was like counting how many times I died, and it was like my first time in a raid, and I was like, "What the hell?" But that was one time. All right, let's go on to our last one because we are running out of time. But our last villain for now, we might get a 16 release soon, but Arden Azunia, who is, I've mistaken his picture of him like whatever, like dying as Jesus a little bit too many times, and I'd like to admit because
cowboy.
Yeah, he Arden, the Fallen King, as some like to call him. But I'll let Lieutenant, you can go first and talk about Arden. What your thoughts about this? Interesting.
Doctor, you can go first and talk about Arden.
I'm going to be bad at this one because this is another game that I did not enjoy very much, and I didn't get all the way through it.
It's okay.
However, I would like to add, and I want to know if this is true from the community. I've heard that because the story just felt incomplete as I was playing it.
It wasn't complete.
And I've heard that when they added a bunch of the DLC stuff, what is it called? The
episodes, right?
Yeah, the episodes. I just purchased the Windows edition, which is supposed to have them all connected.
Oh, okay.
And I've heard that kind of ties everything in together a little bit better.
Yeah.
Is that true?
A little bit. I still feel it's very incomplete.
Sure.
And I enjoyed the game, and I still feel like it's a very incomplete game, and I'm really upset about that because I really liked it. I was devastated when they because they canceled quite a few episodes. They were gonna have episode Luna. They were gonna have episode. I think they were gonna have another Arden episode actually. But yeah, it's very incomplete and it's very sad because it is a good game. If it would be better if it was completed, but
it's so tough because, like I said, like I'm trying not to play any of the Final Fantasies I'm not currently playing on stream because I don't want to spoil them for myself later. Right. And the 13 series and 15 in particular have been games I've been dying to play. Like to give them a chance. And I just see so many positive things about 15 that every time I load up my Steam, I'm just gonna play a little bit. I stop myself from doing it. No. You have to wait.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You just gotta wait. Come on, Doctor.
Vanessa, have you played 15?
Patience.
Yeah, and I really loved it. I loved the whole game. I loved the different Easter eggs to past Final Fantasy games. Mm-hmm. For example, the Benora White poster that you should see every now and then. Ooh, Benora Whites.
Yeah.
No,
Crisis Core.
Crisis Core. Arden's a dope character, honestly. Like, I think he's probably one of my top 5 favorite villains in the series. Again, he has like a pretty tragic backstory, like Seymour, but then I feel more for Arden than I did for Seymour.
Oh, way
Arden,
more.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying not to spoil this too. So I don't know.
It's okay. I think this one's safe. This one's been out for about 4 years now. It's been out since 2017 or 2016. So I think this one's safe.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a Royal Edition now, which Chi-Ji says like 15 is completely different now because of the Royal Edition. I have not played the Royal Edition. I should, but yeah, Arden is. Go ahead, Vanessa. What were you gonna say about him?
Oh no, so I haven't played the Royal Edition either. I've just been chilling on, that, like the first release and the episodes, and just like learning about Arden and his past, like watching the expansion stuff, like the anime that they released with his backstory. Is it an anime or is it just a cartoon?
There's an anime, yeah.
So watching that, it was just like really sad. He was actually doing good, and I hate his brother. I really freaking hate his brother.
Yeah.
Because of like how that whole thing played out, and like I totally feel for Arden. I would have done the same. Like I probably would have gone down the same path if I had wandered the world saving all these people and they just turned on me like that. I would have been like, oh yeah, screw you guys. So
he's definitely a martyr, I think, in my opinion. It wasn't his fault that he was, treated the way he was, like, because he was a magic. He had magic or I can't, oh god, it's been so long, 4 years since I played the game, but he had like magic abilities and it was just like not okay, and so he was like a martyr in my opinion, who turns out just bad. But and then someone said on our Google Doc that they really liked how he made an appearance early in the game. I kind of do too, because I didn't suspect him to be the villain at first, and it turns out he was, and that was almost like, that was really kind of cool for me. I don't know how you guys felt about that, but yeah.
I love that. That was a great twist, especially when he's like, oh, you need to go to this monument? Let me escort you there. I will use my chancellor abilities to get you in.
Right. He seemed like a good guy at first, and then he ended up being this horror.
Well, as a kind of a story, like I like to write, so they made him, to me, unpredictable to a point, because they wrote it, like when you first meet him, I both thought he's too, they gave him too much character to not be important.
Right.
And they also, so I started looking at him like, I wonder if this guy could be the bad guy. But then they put different things in his progression as it went along that it's just like, no, they want you to think he could be the bad guy. So then I started like dismissing it. It's definitely not this guy. And then, as it continued to play out, it was just, I wasn't really sure what was really going on with him at all.
Right.
But I knew they wrote it well enough, and they made him a unique enough character that you knew that he was either going to be, like, I started leaning towards thinking that he was going to be the guy who at the end really helped the party out to beat whatever the bad guy was, almost like the Oren type character.
Right, yeah. I definitely thought that too.
That was way off. And so anybody who can trick me when I consider myself a pretty good plot buster, which is like, seeing a game or a movie and not really ever knowing what's going on, be able to predict what's going to happen next. I couldn't do that with this one until they basically gave it to me. They're like, oh yeah, this is the dude. Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, he's definitely an interesting one. I don't know. I really liked it. And I kind of was disappointed they didn't mention more of his like reign as a king, and that Noctis is a descendant of, like, they're related. They're from the same family, and I was almost disappointed that wasn't mentioned more. It was kind of just like separate, which if I was to find out this was like my great 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 grandfather, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like, I would have problems within myself, but that's just me. Yeah, so I was a little disappointed they didn't acknowledge that more, but I mean, does anyone have anything else to say about Arden before we wrap up? I think we're good. All right, so this Yay! We finished it! It's been such a long making to try to finish the antagonists. They are so big. I don't think we realized what kind of feat we were under when we were like, let's just do antagonists, and it took like forever. So we did it. We did it. Craig says that you need to give 13 another chance, Doctor.
So, I was just responding to
yeah,
him right now.
Yeah, no, you definitely do. So everyone, thanks for coming in, and Chiji, thank you for your thoughts. Everybody that gave their thoughts in our Twitter and our Discord. Our Discord's underneath if you would like to join. We will be back next week with, I think we're going to be talking about the Final Fantasy X stuff. We're still discussing, but I think that's what we're going to do. So we'll be on a completely new subject finally. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you next week.